Podcast number 4. Hello. Today I'm here with Espen Mathiesen.
Hey guys.
He is a professional jiu-jitsu competitioner. He got his black belt 1.5 years ago.
1.5 years ago.
He won some big competitions at brown belt and now at black belt. He also won some big competitions. He won the Abu Dhabi Pro, made 3rd place at the IBJJF Worlds, and today he's here on my couch to answer all the stupid questions I will ask him.
Cool.
Thank you, Espen, for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
So maybe you can explain to the listeners who don't know anything about jiu-jitsu, what is jiu-jitsu about and why is it so much fun to do jiu-jitsu?
So jiu-jitsu is about, you're not allowed to punch or kick, but it's about getting to positions. So it's about getting to dominant positions, and the main goal is submitting the guy. So you want to either choke the guy or get a foot lock or arm lock or something. And the reason why it's fun is because you use your body, you have to think a lot. It's almost like chess with your body. And then you also, the fun thing about it, you're constantly improving. So the more you train, the more techniques you understand, and the more fun it becomes. So it's really addictive.
So growing up, did you do any other sports, and how was your first contact getting into jiu-jitsu? How did you start?
I started doing soccer football when I was 5 years. I did that for 11 years, and I did a lot of skiing too. But I always liked martial art. I had an older brother that would beat my ass all the time, so I had to fight since I was a kid. So I just enjoyed martial arts, and me and a friend watched the movie. We saw in the local newspaper that there were jitsu there in my town, so we decided let's try it out. We thought we knew how to fight, we didn't. So that was like my first introduction. It was just, to be honest, pretty random that we went there.
So did you, like now you're on top of the food chain in jiu-jitsu, were you addicted right away doing jiu-jitsu, or was it just like a slow start?
I got pretty addicted right away, but I didn't go full on right away because I had so much other things going on, football, skiing and everything. But half a year in, I did a competition, I took double silver and I really enjoyed it. And then after that I quit football, I started skiing less and more jitsu. And then it was truly addicted.
So how many, you're from a very small town?
Yeah.
Like how many training sessions did you have per week?
When we started there were only 2 training sessions per week. Because there was a blue belt from Denmark called Damon Asi. He moved to our town, but he's a doctor, so he had limited time. So we had 2 sessions per week. So I couldn't train too much. But eventually, when I got my blue belt, my best friend started training jitsu. His name is Sindre, and then we bought mats that we had in my home, and he's my closest neighbor. So he would come over every day, and we would train in my house.
So what I heard about this time, that you got like super deep into it and like watched a lot of YouTube.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that time when you just like really started focusing on it, and how did you like train with your friend?
So that happened when I was a blue. He started doing jitsu, and then obviously I could train more since I got the mats in my house. And we wanted to learn more. We wanted to always improve. So watching YouTube, watching online programs was a great way for us to collect information. And just the more you learn, you want to learn more, and then you have a new question, and then you want to study more, and then you watch more YouTube. So it was just I think it was a natural process. When you got more into it, I just wanted to know more and more and more. So I just went down the rabbit hole, and it didn't end.
So for anyone who's watching a lot of YouTube videos, there are even some YouTube videos of Espen where he analyzes stuff. Like I think you went really deep, like just watching all the footage. Did you have any guys at that time you were really into modeling your game?
At the end of my white belt and the beginning of my blue, I started watching the Mayao brothers because I saw they did the Berimbolo. They were small guys doing really well in the open weight. They had a lot of success, so I was like, I have to learn this game. So I started to study them, watch all their matches on YouTube, all their fights. I just watched it all day. So they were like the main guys I was studying. But that eventually, when I got to purple belt and brown, I started to study more styles and more different fighters.
So I think what I've seen around 2014, you took a year off, or did you finish school and then just...
The summer I finished and then took a year off.
Took a year off, and you traveled a lot at this time to different gyms. Was it at that time, or did you go to Mendes Brothers because you finished second place at the purple at the Gi Worlds?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get to that? Like, because I think at that time your whole focus was jiu-jitsu, right? In 2014.
Yeah.
So how was your time? You did prepare at the Mendes Brothers for the...
So I finished school at the summer of 2014. I'd gotten my purple belt. So I was supposed to go to university, but I took 1 year off. And then me and a friend called Tommy Langaker, we decided to go to California to train with the Mendes brothers. So I stayed there for 3 months, but then I went back to Norway, trained there for a while. And then instead of going to AOJ, I actually went to Arizona because they were a part of our same team, the Nova Uniao. So I went there, trained there for 2 months, and then I went to the Worlds and got my silver.
So what did your parents say when you said, okay, I'm not gonna go study right away, but just gonna train this jiu-jitsu thing?
They've always been very supportive, and also I think the key for me was that they did it slowly. I said I'm gonna take 1 year off, and then I'm gonna take a new year off. So it's like a slow process. I didn't tell them I'm gonna drop out of school, so I did it step by step.
So what are they? So right now your only thing you're doing is jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Like, did their opinion change? Do they sometimes say to you, yeah, you should study? Or is it like a bit 100% supportive?
They support it for sure. They see that I'm dedicating myself, training really hard, doing everything I can to succeed. So I think they understand that no matter what I'm doing in my life, the principles and what I've learned throughout these years, no matter if I'm continuing doing this or if I do something else, it's going to be beneficial. And it gives me experiences that most people don't have. So they always been supportive, and they trust that I take the right choices.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So what I'm, for example, interested in, because I watch the Art of Jiu-Jitsu a lot, like the online library.
Yeah.
So I would be interested, like, how was your stay in California? Like, the people who maybe don't know, like, Art of Jiu-Jitsu is the gym of Rafa and Guy Mendes, and they're just multiple-time world champions.
Yeah.
Didn't lose like many matches in the whole career. Yeah. Like, how was that like something that helped you improve your game?
For sure, it was nice, because before that I trained in Egersund only with white belts and blue belts. So that was actually the first time where I was consistently training with higher belts. So I learned a lot from them. They were really kind to me. So I had only good experience training with the Mendes Bros, and I'm really grateful for those 3 months where I stayed there.
You're still training in Norway. It's like a very small town, and it's like, for a small town, it's you there, it's Tommy there. Like, can you tell us something about your team? How did you met Tommy? Like, how did that all come together?
So I met Tommy actually at my first competition as a white belt. I fought him in the semi-final, and also I fought Vegard there in the final. So we all met. We're from different towns, but we kept talking. We kept our connection, and then we just decided that we wanted to move together. And Vegard was moving to Tommy's town to open an MMA gym, and I didn't want to travel to America and Brazil all the time, so I decided to move there as well. And we just started to train together, and that's how it's been.
How's that, like, what's some of the, maybe, do you have a story with Tommy? Like, what's like what kind of connection do you have to him? Like, because it must be kind of insane, because you're from a small town both, and just kind of like went the path together. Like, do you have a story with Tommy? Like, what kind of character is he?
Story with Tommy, yeah, he's a tough guy. He was my rival when I was white and blue belt. We would fight a lot against each other at tournaments, but I just understood that we were kind of similar types too. We wanted to become the best in Jitsu, and that's how it was. We just traveled together, trained together, and developed our relationship.
So one thing I'm very happy about the time we record this podcast. It's like the first week of January.
Yeah.
So I can ask you about your goals for the year.
Yeah.
Like, do you have a plan? Do you have a plan what you want to do like in 2019?
My plan for 2019 is just, my main goal is to become an IBJJF world champion. I was pretty close last year. I took bronze. I lost to Lucas Lepre in the semi, and I think he's a 5 or 6 time world champion. So he's really good. I lost by 1 advantage. So I want to get my rematch there. I want to get the gold, and that's my main goal. And of course, beside that, I want to win all the IBJJFs I enter. Like, I want to win Europeans, and I also want to become Abu Dhabi world champion again.
Do you have any non-jiu-jitsu goals or?
Any non-jitsu goals? No, not really. Like, my main goals, what I'm working towards is it's towards jitsu.
What I would be interested in, for example, is, I know you're very competitive, like perfectionist.
Yeah.
How do you deal with a setback? Like, for example, I imagine looking back, 3rd place at the Worlds is like a super good result.
Yeah.
But I guess you kind of want your goal is to be number 1. How do you deal with setbacks? And
every time I lose, I try to come back stronger. It's motivating for me to lose almost, because it's almost worse to lose than the happiness of winning. Make sense? So, for example, as a brown belt, I lost every tournament besides some super fights. I lost everything, but then I was so eager. I trained so hard that the next year I ended up submitting everyone at the Europeans. I ended up winning gold at Pan American. I took silver at the Copper Podium Grand Slam, beating black belts, and I was a brown. And then the same thing last year in 2018. I lost Europeans first match, I lost Pan American, didn't medal, and then I came back to gold at the Abu Dhabi World Pro and bronze at the Worlds. So in my cases, when I lose, I get motivated. I want to just come back to training. I just want to fix my mistakes, and I don't let a loss affect me in that way. Of course it affects me because I don't enjoy it, but it doesn't kill my self-confidence. It's more like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to win.
do you ever have the problem of getting lazy when if it's going too good? Or do you still have the motivation to show up every day in the gym?
Yeah, I don't think I have the habit of becoming lazy. I've been grinding since 2014, since I started doing it full time. It's been 2 trainings almost every day consistently. I barely had breaks. It's just I'm always doing something, so I don't think I'm turning lazy just because I have good results. Because I know if I'm lazy, other guys are gonna work their butts off to beat me. So I have to keep working.
Yeah. One thing when I listened to another podcast with you, what I was really fascinated by your mindset, and where you are. I think you started listening to Jim Rohn tapes.
Yeah.
Like, was that even before jiu-jitsu, or how did you get into this mental?
Actually, it started in 2014. I remember when I were at the AOJ, I started to listen to Jim Rohn, and I listened to some people talking about the importance of reading books. So I started reading tons of books. I would just buy all the books I can find, try to go to book list and find the best ones, and that helped me a lot because I got like a lot of good information, and that truly helped my mindset and took my jitsu to the next level.
Did you have a certain way to apply it? Because there are so many people who read like all the books,
Yeah.
and when you see them and they tell you they've read like this book and like listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, but it doesn't show in their life. Did you have a certain way to put this new knowledge in your life?
Because with jitsu it's so easy to apply stuff. Like, for example, you read a book about mindset, it can be setting goals. You can start setting goals right away with jitsu. Or I read a book about learning that changed my way of training. So I think it's maybe because jitsu is an easy thing to implement things to. So it was just natural to read a book and I was like, this is cool stuff. This can be helpful for me in Jitsu. I implied it and it helped.
Can you name some books like back at this time that really influenced you?
There was the Make It Stick. It's a book about learning that changed completely the way I was training, because normally you learn throughout school that repetition is the way. Just like in Jitsu, it's called drilling. You just do a movement without resistance, and intuitively it feels very correct. You feel you learn a lot, but the fact is you don't learn a lot actually from doing that, because in a match, when you don't know what to do, the partner is just going to be there doing nothing. He's going to do resistance. So what you need to do is to learn to do the right moves at the right time. And then repetition is not just the way. Your partner has to do different stuff and you have to solve. So it's more about being a solver than just being a driller or a robot. So I implemented that in my training after reading that book, and that changed everything.
So now when you train, like for people who don't train jiu-jitsu, drilling is you go through the technique and do it over and over again until it gets sharp.
Yeah.
And how did you change your way of training?
So before, a lot of people talk about drilling in Jitsu, like drill to win, and it's non-resistant. You just do one move over and over to get the muscle memory. But what we started to do was doing more situational sparring. So the guy could do whatever move he wanted to. There was no like certain patterns. So I had to look at what my partner were doing and then act. So it's different, because then you're solving the problem at the spot compared to just doing the move over and over. And when you do that, you feel like really good, you get it really tight and you can do the move perfect. But in Jitsu, it's not about having the perfect execution, it's about having the perfect timing, really. You have to be really good at solving problems at the spot. So that was the change. Instead of just my partner doing nothing, he started doing resistance, and I had to work around that.
One thing I was really fascinating, listening to his podcast and now talking to you, like I know you went really deep into visualizing a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe you can you talk a little bit about this phase, like how you visualized and what's the right way to visualize? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I read the book You Are the Placebo and Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, and he talks about the importance of visualizing, because every day we're visualizing, we're thinking scenarios, we're thinking positive scenarios, not just thinking but feeling it. So you have to combine thinking and feeling. So what I did for a very long time was I would meditate to change my brain waves in my brain, to get him from daily stress to alpha and down to theta, and then you can really start. When you start visualizing, then it goes deeper into your brain. It enters your subconsciousness, because that's the power of the brain. Your conscious mind is only 5%, your subconscious is 95%. So that's what you do. You meditate first, and then you start visualizing and also combining the feelings. So I would, for example, imagine I'm going to a tournament. I would visualize the feeling of winning, how it was going to be afterwards, like all the whole process I would see in my head. So I would do that, but I will also I started to visualize a lot just training. For example, a scenario I was having a hard time with, I would just see it in my head over and over, visualizing it. So I did that for a very long time, and it was very successful. But at this particular point in my career, I stopped actually doing a lot of the visualizing, because I feel that it was a limitation too. It was really powerful, it's a really powerful tool, but for me it became a limitation too, because when you're constantly visualizing, you're creating limitations, because you see certain ideas or patterns, and it's hard to then do something outside of the box, because it's almost like what you imagine become your comfort zone. So you want to do what you already imagined. You don't want to go out of your comfort zone. So now, for me, it's more important I'm trying to meditate and be more present. And that's kind of the opposite of visualizing, because when you're meditating, you're not trying to think about the future or scenarios. You're trying to be in the moment. And I'm more and more trusting that whatever happens, I will handle it better if I'm present rather than if I'm visualizing it.
So when did you was there a certain point when you made this change? Was it just constantly visualizing and seeing yourself, and putting your head into jiu-jitsu? Was it too much stress or?
I think it was, I started to read the book The Power of Now of Eckhart Tolle. So I read that book, and after the season of 2018 I read the book many times, because first time I understood it to a certain degree but not really. Then I read it again, I was like, he's onto something. And then again and again, and the more I read the book, the more I understood it. And then I started to implement it more and more in my life, and I went away from visualizing. So I've been doing it for like half a year now, and it's still a process, because I've been doing so much visualizing. I would visualize all the time, all my spare time, driving the car, like all the time I was visualizing. So now it's kind of going the opposite way. So it's a process, but I feel the improvement, and also I feel how training has been more fun, because I'm more creative now. I'm just trying to be there and see the solutions, because when you're more in the moment, you can actually be creative. If everything is just planned and like a robot, there's no creativity. You can have a really good system, but it will not be something new. But now in training, since I don't have any plans, I'm just there, and this feels right and this feels right, and I trust more my intuition.
So are you now in your second black belt season, like competitive?
This is the second, yeah.
Does this one feel different? Like I think last year was kind of, I imagine, it's the first time like rolling against all the guys, maybe all the guys you've seen on YouTube and like all the heroes. Does this season feel different?
Yeah, for sure, because I was fighting guys that I've been studying since I was a white belt, people I've been looking up to, and all of a sudden I was there fighting them. So for sure, when you fought them and you see they're humans, it's very easy to put people on a pedestal. They're like unbeatable or whatever. But being there, testing myself against them, I was like, this is for sure possible for me to do good against. So I think this season I go in with more confidence. I know what I have to do differently, and so I feel more prepared this time for sure.
Do you take extra time out every day to meditate?
Yeah. So I'm trying to do at least 20 minutes to an hour every day. And then beside that, I've been trying to just implement it in my life in general. So while I'm driving the car or sitting or waiting, it's so easy to you're bored and you start think. But I'm trying to program my brain more and more to be in the present moment. Because if you only do it 20 minutes a day, and you have so many hours throughout the days, and only 20 minutes try to be present, it's not going to do huge changes. So I'm trying more and more to just be in more a meditative state. And it's not like, some people have a misconception here, it's not like you're going to a different state and you're away. It's the opposite, you're more there. So when I'm waiting, I'm just more in the moment there, instead of going away. So you can do it anywhere, even if you're driving your car. It's safer driving while meditating, because you're actually driving, you're not thinking about what you should do and the future and stress. So I'm trying more and more to implement that into my life, and I feel to a big degree, Jitsu is a reflection of your life. The way you fight Jitsu is a reflection of how you live life. So if you're very analytical and everything in Jitsu, you're going to be that in life. But if you're able to live in the moment, you're going to be able to fight in the moment. And I believe if you're fighting in the moment, that's when you're going to do best.
And one cool thing, for example, like next week we have a big competition coming up, and so I guess like even you're a pro, it's like there's some anxiety coming up, and it's very easy if this anxiety come up, like one solution is to just like do something else, like go on Instagram, like distract yourself. Like how do you just accept that, or how do you combine that with the meditation?
So for example, I try to not, if I catch my mind thinking about scenarios or thinking about my matches, I try to stop it immediately. Because of course, sometimes I lose track of my mind and I'm thinking about the fight or whoever I'm going to fight, but I try to stop it and don't continue at least. And also the day I'm fighting now, I'm trying to meditate from the morning to when I'm fighting, because it's hard if I'm going to, my mind is everywhere before the fight and then go into the fight and be present. That's pretty hard. So I try not to let stress and anxiety builds up before I'm fighting, so I can be 100% there.
Yeah, that's something very tough to master. Like
Yeah.
it's like you can talk about all the concepts, and
Yeah.
if you think about it, jiu-jitsu, it's just two guys trying to strangle each other. It's like no punches.
Yeah.
It's like you can lose, but that's like the most horrific thing that can happen.
Yeah.
But it's still like the body. It's just it's sometimes very hard to manage it. And it's kind of cool to see that even like doesn't matter how long you do it. It's like always there that you kind of get this. It's just you learn to deal better with it.
Exactly. I think everyone has nerves because you're putting everything online. You train a lot. You want to win. You want to do this, and then it's just natural to have nerves. But it's to the degree which how you handle it. It doesn't take you over. It doesn't like. Does you lose your mind completely, or you're able to handle it? And even if there's nerves, you're still in control and you're able to do what you're gonna do.
One thing I've seen you starting. You have a new internet site.
Yeah.
It's called Wolfing House, right?
Exactly.
Maybe you can talk about what you're doing there.
Yeah.
And what is Wolfing House? Like, how does the name come?
So the name was we just talked about. We tried to find a cool name. And one guy said Wolfing House, and we liked it. And what we're doing there, we started the summer of 2018, so half a year now. It's our online program where we post techniques. So I have my week, Tommy has his week, and Berger has his week. So it's 5 videos every week, and we also try to add some sparring sessions as well. And the idea is just we share our Jitsu, and you can subscribe there and watch what we are doing. I think it's a really good thing for us because we live in Norway, and of course it's maybe easier to live from Jitsu in America, but since we're using the internet, it doesn't matter. We can live anywhere and still earn a living and everything. So that's why we decided to do the Wolfing House.
Yeah, that's cool. And for all the people who are watching from a small town who like kind of put the limitation on them, I can't make it in jiu-jitsu. I don't have the training. I mean, you did it, right? You went from a small town to Haugesund, and it's like you didn't have much at the beginning, and then you kind of worked yourself through. And I think that can also help people to kind of get the information if they don't have a high belt coach.
That's the thing.
At their place, they can get information from you, and like, I mean, your techniques are battle tested.
Yeah.
You're one of the best. Maybe at the end you can just say where can people find you? Facebook, Instagram. I think you do seminars. How do people get in contact with you if they like what you're doing?
So of course I have a YouTube channel, Espen Mathiesen. There I put out stuff. You can also, if you want to contact me, I have my Instagram or Facebook. And of course check out wolfinghouse.com. That's where we post our techniques and sparring. A lot of good content there, so I would recommend to check out that, for sure.
Then Espen, I thank you very much for taking the time. It was very nice talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you all the guys for listening. This was podcast number 4, and if you want to try jiu-jitsu, it's a great sport. So thank you all very much for listening. See you next week. Bye bye.